Yeah, Prabhupada went to Scotland for the opening of the temple, and it was quite an interesting press conference. All these sort of weary, hard-edged kind of journalists, cynical journalists mostly, had assembled from various Scottish newspapers, and Prabhupada had a connection with Scotland that most people weren't aware of at that time. That in fact he was educated by Scottish missionaries in Calcutta, the school he attended. So he knew a bit more about Scottish people in Scotland than we thought he might know. And I think the press people might have had an idea about that. So there was, I remember it quite well because we were in his room. It was quite a small room, but there might have been 10 or 15 journalists there, along with maybe 8 or 10 of devotees. And they were asking these questions. They were sort of cynical kind of questions. Some of them were almost rude, like challenging. Why have you come here? What purpose are you doing? What do you hope to achieve? That kind of thing. And Prabhupada answered very, very, very nicely. He maintained his composure completely, and he gave, eloquent answers and quoted a bit from the Bhagavad-gita. And in a sense, they were becoming won over, as most people usually were. It didn't take very long. And one of the journalists, I'll never forget this, he became so either frustrated or didn't quite know what to ask Prabhupada in a kind of a offhand manner. He asked Prabhupada, he said, "So do you know everything?" Like that. And Prabhupada kind of took his time to answer, and he nodded his head and he said yes. But then he didn't just say yes like that. Obviously, he purported it a bit. He added a little something to it. But that was a classical moment, where that question was asked of him, and he thought, and he answered directly and honestly, and he just said yes. And at that moment, there was like a feeling right throughout the room, amongst the devotees and amongst the journalists, that perhaps it was true. I mean, and after that, the whole mood changed. They became very light-hearted. One young girl, Brahmacharini, put up her hand, and everyone in the room looked. Oh yes, someone's going to ask a question. And I don't think it was even relevant to the class at the time. And she said, "Srila Prabhupada, does Krishna speak the Bhagavad-gita in the hellish planets?" So Prabhupada, he thought for a moment, and he looked back and he said, "Hellish planets? Hellish planets? You don't think this London is a hellish planet?" And so everybody thought that was quite funny. I mean, it was quite funny. It was an excellent way of answering the question, because it answered the question, but also enlightened us to think that, what is our position? Yeah, so that's one question that sticks in my mind. Of course, another time we refer to England as a green hell. Which is quite, it's a wonderful use of the English language, to describe Britain or England in that way, which is quite an apt way to describe it. Je anilo premadana koruna prachu